Ma'am, visiting hours ended 20 minutes ago. The security guard's voice echoed through the sterile hospital corridor. She stood firm, clipboard in hand, blocking the path of an elderly woman clutching a worn shoebox. The woman's silver hair was perfectly combed despite the late hour. Her hand shook slightly. "Please," she whispered, "it's my husband's birthday tomorrow. He's been asking for these all week." But the guard didn't budge. Hospital policy is hospital policy. Family visits resume at 8 a.m. sharp. No exceptions. The old woman nodded slowly, turned around, and walked back toward the elevator. Her footsteps echoed like a heartbeat in the empty hallway. Behind the nurse's station, someone whispered, "Isn't that the woman whose husband?" But nobody finished the sentence. 3 hours earlier, Margaret Chen had spent her last $20 on a taxi ride across town. At 82 years old, she didn't drive anymore. Inside the shoebox were dozens of handwritten letters, love notes her husband James had written to her over their 58 years of marriage. He had Alzheimer's now, and most days he didn't remember her name. But yesterday, in a moment of clarity, he'd asked for the letters with tears in his eyes. The guard watched her disappear into the elevator, then returned to her desk. "Some old lady with a box," she reported to the night supervisor. "Said it was her husband's birthday. No visitor pass, no authorization." Inside the supervisor's office, Nurse Patricia Williams was reviewing the incident report when she saw the name on the visitor log, Margaret Chen. Her blood went cold. "Wait," she said, grabbing the security footage. "Did you say Margaret Chen? Room 314? The guard nodded. "Yeah, why?" Patricia's hands trembled as she pulled up the patient file. James Chen, World War II veteran, Purple Heart recipient, married 58 years, donated over $2 million to the children's wing of this very hospital. The man who'd funded the pediatric cancer ward was lying alone on his birthday while his wife was turned away at the door. "Get Dr. Martinez," Patricia said, her voice tight. "Right now." Meanwhile, Margaret sat in the hospital parking lot on a cold metal bench. The taxi was long gone, and she had no way home until morning. She opened the shoebox and pulled out one of the letters. "My dearest Maggie, even after 30 years, you still make my heart skip like a teenager's." At 11:47 p.m., just as Margaret was dozing off from exhaustion, she heard footsteps approaching. Dr. Martinez appeared with Patricia and 3 other staff members. "Mrs. Chen," Dr. Martinez said gently, "we're so sorry. There's been a terrible misunderstanding." They found James awake, staring at the ceiling in room 314. Most nights he was confused, lost in the fog of his condition. But tonight was different. Tonight he was lucid. "Where's Maggie?" were his first words when he saw the medical team enter. "She's right here, Mr. Chen," Dr. Martinez said, stepping aside. Margaret walked slowly to his bedside, the shoebox in her arms. James's eyes focused on her face, really focused, for the first time in months. "You brought them," he whispered, seeing the box. "The letters." She sat beside him and opened the first one. Her voice was soft but clear as she read aloud, "My dearest Maggie, today marks our first anniversary, and I want you to know that loving you has been the greatest adventure of my life." James smiled, his eyes clear and bright. For the next 2 hours, Margaret read letter after letter while James held her hand. The nursing staff gathered quietly in the doorway, many wiping away tears. As the sun began to rise, James squeezed Margaret's hand one last time. "Happy birthday to us," he whispered. They had been married on his birthday 58 years ago. James Chen passed away peacefully that morning, holding his wife's hand, surrounded by 6 decades of love letters. Margaret stayed with him until the end, reading their story aloud. The security guard who had turned Margaret away attended the funeral 3 days later. She placed a single white rose on James's casket and whispered, "I'm sorry, sir. I didn't understand." Dr. Martinez changed the hospital's visitor policy the following week. Now, there are no visiting hours for end-of-life patients. Love, they learned, doesn't follow a schedule. Margaret donated the Children's Wing Library in James's memory. Above the entrance, a plaque reads, "Love letters never end. They just wait to be read again." The shoebox of letters sits in Margaret's living room now, next to James's photo. Sometimes, on quiet evenings, she still reads them aloud. Because some conversations are too beautiful to end. If this story touched your heart, remember that every elderly person you meet has lived a lifetime of love, loss, and stories worth hearing. Sometimes the greatest gift we can give is simply our time.